I have picked up some bad photography habits over the years, or I only thought they were bad because I was told that they were bad. Today, I want to share some bad habits that I have that I think actually helped me. Let's get into it. First is taking too many photos. Yes, you should be taking less photos. Be more intentional and shoot in singular, not in burst mode. Don't spray and pray. I used to shoot film, so I was in this group. I thought more thought should go into each shot, and sometimes you shouldn't take a photo at all if you think it won't be a very nice photo. This was confirmed by many comments on YouTube or internet forums. I would hear things like, if you don't know why you're taking the photo, don't take it. Or if it is a photo you've seen before, don't take it. But as soon as I moved to digital photography, I got in the habit of burst shooting and retaking every photo in attempt to get a slightly better image. So naturally, I told myself that I have to fix this bad habit. But that all changed when I went to see the exhibition of Henri Cartier-Bresson, the king of street photography and founder of the Decisive Moment. I was drooling over the photos, and I knew how hard it must have been to capture those photos because I used to shoot film too. Because of the decisive moment and the finite numbers of frames I had, I used to only shoot once or twice max of the same scene or subject. I thought that's what the decisive moment meant. So naturally, I thought it was miraculous that he has so many decisive moment photos. However, in this exhibition, they showcased this contact sheets as well. If you don't know what contact sheets are, just think of it as showing the whole roll of film in its film form. So I saw all 36 frames of his roll of film, multiple of them. I was really surprised to find that he took so many photos of the same scene to capture that decisive moment. He truly worked the scene by shooting different angles and different moments. And from those, he would choose the decisive moment, and those are the photos that we see. What I found interesting was that he did this to even a scene that, at least to me, didn't really involve a decisive moment. It was a man standing to a backdrop of a foggy road. He wasn't doing anything special, but he shot this man more than 20 times, I think. So if your camera allows you to do so, then burst shoot all day if it means capturing the decisive moment. Don't be ashamed by it, even the best photographers did this. So why would I, who's not even a pro photographer, not practice this volume shooting? Now I really work the scene and take photos from all different angles that I think might work. I take burst photos from the same angle if I want to capture the decisive moment. It is okay. It is not only okay, I recommend it. Next is chimping. It is bad to chimp because you keep snapping out of your rhythm and also might miss a chance to shoot while checking the back of your camera. I don't chimp all the time, but I do it often. Sometimes I think it is good to chimp when working on a scene to see if you're on the right track. Your eyes and photos are different sometimes. What looks good to the eye might not make a great photo and vice versa. Seeing your results in a picture form will help you determine if what you want to photograph will turn out to be a good photo or not. Or it could be more technical than that. Maybe your shutter speed is too slow, ending up in blurry photos. This happens a bit when you're in aperture priority mode and didn't or cannot set the minimum shutter speed. It certainly happened to me a few times when I suddenly ended up in a darker spot but forgot to adjust my aperture. And sometimes, chimping gives me a break from staying in the zone. It might sound like a good thing to be in the zone, but I found that when I'm in the zone, I get too tunnel vision to realize what I'm doing wrong. Like taking too many shots from the same angle when working on a scene, when there are other good potential angles available. By chimping, I can correct these mistakes. Chimping is really frowned upon, so I wouldn't recommend it because I don't want to get too much heat. But I think chimping saved me a few times in my photo walks. Next is shooting without looking. Some people say that looking through the viewfinder is the best way or the only way to shoot photos. And yes, you should meticulously compose your shot and intention should go into your photos. But I grew a habit of shooting from the hip without looking at the back screen, mainly because many of my cameras lack a tilt screen. Many times, I end up with failed photos which I end up deleting. But from time to time, I would end up with a good photo that I would have never thought to take if I was looking through the viewfinder. Some shots are very obvious and easy. These situations get you to shoot in a textbook sort of way. This isn't bad, but it also isn't new. But shooting without looking can twist these obvious scenes and give it a unique look. Maybe it got you to use negative space when it wasn't so obvious to use it, or it could have something to do with odd angles and perspectives. I found that sometimes these happy accidents have better results than me shooting with a purpose. And even when those shots fail, I get hints at new perspectives or compositions that I can use on my next photo walk. So I am not against shooting without looking. Next is shooting without planning. Yes, to get the best photos possible, you should scout locations. But now, I don't plan out much of my photo walks, just the location and that's it. Sometimes I think about where I'm gonna go after I leave my home. There were times where I would turn on Google Maps and plan out my specific route and etc. But that just got me planning too much and got me postponing my photo walks because I wanted everything too perfect. So now I just go out, walk around my neighborhood. If I have done that enough times, then I go out to central part of Seoul and do the same thing. I already know my way around, so I don't need to be so specific. Every day is different. I like the spontaneous nature of it. Of course, if you are a wildlife photographer or a nature photographer, I understand the need for planning because in the wrong weather or not doing your research beforehand could result in missing your subject altogether. But I think street photography thrives on spontaneous shooting. Just take what the streets are giving you and run with it. This keeps you an open mind, which I think is a very important part of artsy stuff. Wander aimlessly and you might end up finding a gem. Next is listening to music. Some people say that they don't like to listen to music and you shouldn't listen to music when you're out shooting street photography because you want to be present and be aware of all your surroundings. I get that and I've tried that too and it was good. But I found that sometimes listening to music that suits the mood you're in or mood of the photos you're trying to shoot actually helps the photo walk. And sometimes I compose my shots to the music too. I know you might call BS on this, but if I'm shooting Cyberpunk 5 photos while listening to Blade Runner original soundtrack, it really does help my composition because it is exactly the mood that I'm looking for. And I feel that listening to peaceful classical music while shooting in a very quiet town, or listening to fast jazz music while shooting in the bustling city also helps capture the mood that I'm going for. So although the music drowns out the lively sounds of the streets, I love to listen to music that fits the genre of the photos that I'm shooting. Next is letting my photos sit unedited for months. I should edit quickly while the moment is fresh, right? I'm not so sure. Distance helps you see your photos with fresh eyes and less emotional attachment. You might discover hidden gems or new ways to process your images. I think we all had those experiences where we looked at our old edits and thought, what was I thinking? And needed to re-edit them. And I often revisit photos months later and see potential I didn't notice before. It's like giving my work a second chance. After the initial emotional attachment has faded off, seeing your work gets you in a bit more of a third-person point of view and really get to review your image. Next is ignoring composition rules. This is one of my favorite bad habits because I always like doing things my way, even after learning things from a good teacher. When I first began photography, I used to live and die by symmetry, keeping horizon straight, the rule of thirds, and always shooting perpendicular against the building for a clean 2D Wes Anderson sort of look. But now, I don't even have the rule of thirds grid on my viewfinder. I try to push the boundaries and try to create new ways to shoot. And sometimes I let go of safer shots to try something new and it ends up being a bad photo. But go on Google after this video and search famous street photographs and just look through the ones you like. Many of them don't follow the rules. Their horizon is crooked, main subject's face is covered, they're not shot perpendicular, and the subject is not centered, nor does it follow the rule of thirds. But look at how powerful they are. They feel so real. It is about evoking emotions and capturing certain moments. Yes, learn the rules, but also learn to break them. Rules are there to help you get started, but I believe those rules are meant to be broken. There can be so many different reasons why a photo works and becomes powerful. Many times, bad photos stand above good photos. It is not a coincidence that famous powerful photos don't follow the basic composition rules so strictly. Next is collecting old cheap gear. Yes, It is often said that you should stick with one lens or camera, and you shouldn't hoard cameras, but I love collecting old gear, whether that's cameras or lenses. The most surprising find was the 16-year-old Lumix LX3. Now I gotta say that when it first came out, it was one of the best compact cameras on the market and had a Leica lens, so it was no slouch. But the image quality and the colors out of this 16-year-old compact digicam just blew my mind. I also have the Sony RX1. It's a 12-year-old camera, but it has the sharpest lens out of all the lenses plus camera combination that I own. And the Fujifilm X Pro 2, which is 9 years old now, is becoming my favorite camera to work with. I don't know what it is. It is not compact, it doesn't have a tilt screen, both of which are very important boxes to check for me. But what can I say? I fell in love. There are so many benefits to using old cheap gear. The most obvious benefit being you get to save money, and when you need to sell it off, you don't lose that much market value. These days, you might even earn money by selling your gear at a higher price than you bought it. Another benefit is the charm of it. It might be the less than perfect autofocus, or it could be the less than perfect image quality with character. The less than perfect sharpness brings a certain charm to your images. People went crazy over film photos and they are grainy. I love the soft, not so sharp look from the cheap Helios lens when it is wide open. They are fun, and the images they produce might actually end up being more attractive. And using old gear makes you numb to new gear and tech. And you will start to care less about technical perfection like corner-to-corner sharpness. Next is shooting in shutter priority. Yes, aperture priority is king. Most people recommending auto mode is usually referring to aperture priority mode because you get to control the depth of field. I don't think I've ever heard people recommending shutter priority. Of course, they don't recommend against it either, but shutter priority gets little to no love. But I really like to use shutter priority too, especially when shooting in really sunny days. There are so much contrast between light and shadow. So when I suddenly end up in a harsh shadow spot in aperture priority mode, the shutter speed slows down way too much for a blurry shot, or the camera bumps up the ISO too much for a noisy photo. I shot a couple of photos in 5000 ISO in broad daylight because I was pointing at a darker spot in f11. Which ended up in a noisy photo, which is not the end of the world, but it wasn't ideal. If I was in shutter priority mode, I would have been protected from this noisy or blurry photo. So I use shutter priority from time to time and I'm not ashamed of it. So this is all I have for today. Do you have a bad photography habit? Do you put any effort into fixing it? Let me know down in the comment section. And if you came this far, then please like and subscribe to my channel because it really helps out small channels like mine by pushing my content out to more viewers. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.